This is MetaTherapy, where we talk about therapy itself, not advice, not diagnosis, just understanding the process so you can use it better. Each episode of MetaTherapy is psychoeducation, not therapy. If something resonates, it's meant to be language you can bring back into your own work. This is MetaTherapy, the podcast where thanks for joining us. Until next time. Welcome back to MetaTherapy, where we talk about the layers underneath the symptoms. I'm Dominic Adori, and today I'm joined by Stephanie Jackson, whose work focuses on something we almost never name in therapy, the role of physical space in nervous system regulation. Stephanie helps people understand how rooms, environments, and everyday sensory inputs can overwhelm the nervous system long before we ever call it anxiety, burnout, or trauma. She is the founder of Practical Sanctuary and a pioneer in a growing field she calls sensory interior design. I really love that name. Stephanie's work sits at a rare intersection of art, entrepreneurship, healing, and neurodiversity. She helps families and businesses design spaces that actively support focus, learning, connections, and recovery, rather than draining people just for existing inside them. And yes, once we hear her talk, you'll never look at lighting or floor plans the same way again. Stephanie, can you tell our audience, first of all, welcome, and can you, tell our audience a little bit about your origin story?
Thank you, Dominic. I really appreciated how clear that introduction was. It's kind of amazing to me that someone can grasp what I do in that way because I pulled from so many different areas that don't necessarily connect in the way we've structured our culture and our education system. I came to this field because I was an artist and a massage therapist, which
Two very
don't
different things.
necessarily seem to integrate. But I became an artist because that's just who I am. I rejected the idea of going to medical school because I'm like, nope, that this is my path. And I was the kind of artist that got my furniture out of dumpsters, lived in the cheapest area of town, even if it meant ducking gunfire and having leaky roofs. I moved to Mexico for a few years just so I could afford to paint and not worry about working 3 jobs to pay the bills. And I became a massage therapist both because I was drawn to helping people heal and because it was a portable way to support myself. I can find a massage client anywhere in the world. I bring my table. People always want massage. And I did not actually expect to be good at it when I went to massage school. My background was in dance. And It turns out that dancers make great massage therapists because we understand how bodies move. And more than that, we can sense our own bodies. And thus, when we feel something reflected in someone else's body, we know what's going on. There's this connection, which we call kinesthetic awareness. We are aware of movement and we are aware of how you feel when your body is in a certain position or in a certain level of tension. So I just bopped along doing these two things, and I hit a brick wall with the 2008 financial meltdown.
Okay.
I was living in New York City. I was paying New York rent. I was painting full time. I was not making my expenses back. It was a business that was losing money.
Okay.
And then I had a child and I had a C-section and I could not physically do massage at the same time that the economy melted down. I ended up moving to Philadelphia, taking my massage practice seriously as a business for the first time because I had a family to support.
Right.
And walking away from the art world because it was toxic, quite frankly.
Okay.
Only about 2 years after I was basically treating my life like I am a massage therapist, I'm a healer, the art is in the past. I had multiple clients look at the way my space was set up, look at my art and say, "Stephanie, I just love that. Would you do something in my house?"
Mm.
And I said, "No, I don't do that anymore." And they're like, "Well, I'll write you a check." And I'm like, "I do that. Yes.
Hmm.
Fantastic." So it was like the art came back and got me after I walked away.
Amazing. Amazing.
And I found that I had a superpower I didn't realize I had,
Mm.
which was understanding how to make any physical space feel right for the people who occupy that space.
Right.
It has to do with lighting. It has to do with ceiling height. It has to do with acoustics. It has to do with color and layout and cultural signifiers. What is the space telling you about who you are? And because I knew my clients very well, I knew their nervous systems, I knew their personalities, I knew their back history, their stories,
Yeah.
they would have a brilliant idea about some thing they wanted executed in their space that was absolutely not going to work in the way that they had envisioned it, but which I knew exactly how to do it in a way that would make it work. And I realized that this is what I was born to do. It is
Amazing.
about integrating all of those design aspects with the actual person and with their nervous system so that they feel the way they want to feel in their space.
So let's start there. So most clients don't come into therapy saying my house is dysregulated by my nervous system. They say things like, I'm on edge all the time, or I just can't relax at home, especially in New York City. And I imagine in
Mhm.
Philadelphia as well, where space is very limited. Or they might say, I feel better when I leave, but worse
Mhm.
when I return, that
Mhm.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, when did you first start noticing that spaces themselves were overwhelming people?
I always have. It was one of those things that was so obvious to me. I didn't understand why people weren't doing the obvious thing. I never not noticed. It was really piecing together the fact that they didn't notice things that were obvious to me. What I find over and over again is that people externalize their stress onto everything around them and that they blame themselves.
Yeah,
So their narrative is, I'll fix that problem when I feel better. Not I will feel better when I fix that problem. Or alternatively, that thing like that extension cord that you're going to trip over, or the pile of laundry in the corner, or the painting that's hung wrong or that isn't hung up at all
mhm,
is trivial. And I need to focus on something that's important. And what I find over and over again, that when you tackle the things that seem trivial,
mhm.
you then have the bandwidth to tackle the things that are important. Because all of those trivial things are draining your energy. They're stressing you out. They're literally taking up bandwidth in your brain, even and especially when you're not consciously noticing them, because
Right,
your brain is using energy to filter them out.
right. We don't think about that, the stuff that's happening offline to give us the ability to have attention to the things that we're focusing on.
Right.
And so those little things, yeah, absolutely. And usually they're at least in my experience, those are the things that could really only take 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Just really quick things, but because we're not giving we think, oh no, it's not that, that couldn't possibly have anything to do with why I'm having such a hard time focusing or being able to do this task, right?
Or that it's maybe has something to do with it, but we can just override it with our will. I
Yeah.
feel that we get a lot of messages culturally in general, that if you can't just power your way through it, you're just lazy and you just need to straighten up and do it right.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And when has
Um,
that ever worked? As a therapist, tell me, when has
never,
that ever worked?
never. Yeah, no, everybody comes in thinking, oh, I'll be motivated if I just have the will. So help me find my will. I'm like, it's not how it works, you
No,
know?
no.
And I mean, that's everything from addiction to just
Mhm.
simple things like dating and just living day to day. Willpower has very little. There's no such thing as like willpower is like the magic bullet. It's not about that. Um, so this is really helpful. So a lot of people will say things like nothing bad is happening, but why can't I just calm down in my own home? What's been your experience with modern environments? Let's go outside of like just the little apartment in Philadelphia or New York. Um, How do modern environments like open floor plans?
Oh,
I've been in corporate. I was in corporate America for a long time, and it used to be like everybody had their own offices with closed
mm,
doors.
mm,
Oh, I miss those days. And
yes.
then they went open concept, and then they started like doing cubicles, and then they went back to open concept. So, what's been your experience with how these kinds of things affect the nervous system and ultimately how they affect workers' ability to be their full selves and give their full selves?
Modern architecture is designed to make people feel small and
Mm,
insignificant.
wow.
It's designed to control people in a hierarchical way. You've got these monumental spaces with these, these high ceilings, these big columns, these big wide open spaces. And then when you go to work, you're in a little cubicle with like half height that you can hear everything going on and people can see in. There are these fluorescent lights, which are just assaulting your visual cortex. No one likes fluorescent lights. Some neurodivergent people cannot see literally with fluorescent lights, but I've
Wow.
never met anyone that actually liked them.
Right.
Sometimes they make a horrible hum that is
Yeah.
stressful and distracting.
It reminds me always of a horror movie. It's like that
Yes,
home is like,
there's this in horror
where's the
movies
monster?
too.
Yeah.
And yet we still keep installing them. There is very little attempt at controlling noise.
Hmm,
Acoustics are terrible. They're they echo, they distract.
hmm,
And there are all of these cultural signifiers which really insist on a hierarchy. And that is crushing to the human spirit. We want to feel important. We want to feel connected. We want to feel like we matter. And so much architecture is designed to make us feel like we are ants or cogs in a machine and that we must play our role correctly or we will be crushed. And those messages are just saturated with
mhm.
the way all kinds of spaces are designed, public spaces, corporate spaces, retail spaces. It's a bloodbath. Oh, hospitals, don't get me started on healthcare.
What do you think is the ideal hospital kind of environment when somebody, for instance, is having an emergency surgery, just as an example?
Well, there's emergency surgery, which sanitation and efficiency need to take priority.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some sacrifices because of that.
Mm,
There are still some unnecessary stressors, such as the acoustics and the lighting. I mean, the surgeon has to be able to see, the
sure.
healthcare practitioners need to be able to see. But even where the lights are pointed, they need to be pointed at the patient, but not necessarily right in their face.
Right.
Having bright lights shining in your face, like you feel like you're under arrest, it is going to spike your your stress even more so than already what has happened.
Yeah.
But the rest of the hospital, there could be so many changes. You need to feel safe and you need to feel nurtured in order for your nervous system to go into a state where you can heal. When you do not feel safe, when you're being woken up in the middle of the night by beeps,
Mm.
when the lights are in your face. I visited a friend in the ICU recently. She had a Klieg light in her face. She had ended up with ICU dementia where she couldn't recognize people. She didn't know where she was. She didn't know what had happened. This went on for weeks. This is
My gosh.
apparently very, very common.
Wow.
And they have done studies that simply changing the environment in the ICU reduces ICU dementia by a duration of about 50%.
Holy cow. Wow.
That just turning off the light that's in someone's face, not waking them up all night, turning
Hmm.
down all the beeps and the bleeps and not having you right on an open hallway with people rushing by, turning off the TV, having a clock in the room, having a comfortable chair for your family to be physically present,
Yeah.
all of that, that is not expensive. That is not high tech. All of that reduces hospital stays in the ICU by 50%.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
That So, I'm going to ask about something I'm very familiar with, which is psychotherapy offices.
Yes, it is.
Tell me about the good, the bad, the ugly. What is the ideal for, we'll just call it a traditional, like adult. I know that therapy offices for kids and adults is going to obviously have its own differences. And if you want to talk about both of them, great. But just, yeah, give me some of your own kind of insights and thoughts about
I
what
feel
makes it.
like a traditional therapy office, like Upper East Side of Manhattan, nice long couch,
Yeah.
cushy carpet, little
Hmm.
shaded lamps, nice art on the walls. That's great. I have no issues with that.
Okay.
If it is a triage therapy, like, battered women's shelter with a bare electric light bulb, a box of Kleenex, and
Hmm.
nothing else except
Hmm.
maybe a phone, that's problematic. There tends to be a tendency to dwell on the trauma and the darkness. We're moving away from that. That was more kind of the thing and when I was growing up, the 80s, the 90s.
Yeah.
I will say that, of course, fluorescent lights just never. If you cannot not have them because you rented a space where there are fluorescent lights and that's just what's available,
Hmm.
just don't turn them on. Bring in
Yeah.
a plug-in incandescent lamp
Hmm.
and light your space with that. The more biophilic elements you have, the better. By biophilic, I mean invoking nature.
uh
It doesn't have to be plants. Plants are great. If you've seen the TV series Monk, right?
Yeah. Of course. Yep.
Yeah, so the therapist office in there is great
Yep.
because he has like a waterfall, he has a big palm tree, he's got
Hmm.
big windows and the sun coming in. That's delightful. If you can get some filtered light, which is a little bit mottled, that's delightful. Even
Hmm.
just organic patterns.
Hmm.
And then have your clients back against a wall or a corner where they have at least a 60-degree sight line, but their back is protected. Never have your clients back to the door.
Right. Yep.
All of those are just going to tell our animal brain, which we are animals, that we're
Hmm.
in a safe place.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. How do you feel about, because the psychotherapy practice that I work at, we have lots of Lego sets, like adult
Oh,
Lego sets.
yeah.
In fact, I there's like one right behind me here. Any opinions about what a Lego set for an adult psychotherapy office might conjure up or might
Well,
be
I
like?
can tell you for me, that conjures up some of the happiest times of my life, which was playing Legos with my brother as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
I would be cautious because everyone has a different backstory.
Right.
And if you have people that have some major childhood trauma,
Hmm.
any object like that can be triggering.
Yep.
So I would want to directly ask each client, are there any,
Hmm.
or even just, hey, you feeling, like just get the
Yes.
backstory. Don't ever
Hmm.
assume.
Absolutely. Um, I think that's a great point. I think asking and understanding what they're bringing into the session and what is getting conjured up in the space. The other interesting thing about the office that I work in is it used to be just a apartment building in Manhattan, and it has a full bath and shower. And
Oh,
so we have actually had people react to that. Like, why is there a shower in the therapy office? Which is a
okay.
valid point and a valid
Yeah.
question.
Uh-huh.
But it definitely, I'm reminded of that because, like you said, people come in with their own story, their own narrative, and their own background. So good, well pointed out. So people will often think, they're, I'm too sensitive, I'm too rigid, I'm too easily overwhelmed. But it sounds like what you're saying is their nervous system is doing its job in an environment that never asked for consent.
Yeah.
So, how do you help people distinguish between internal emotional work and external environmental overwhelm?
They are feedback loops.
Mm,
Your nervous system was is genetically created the way it's
hmm.
created, and we're all created some differences and some the same. So
Hmm.
there's your baseline, but then there's your whole history. For example, highly sensitive people have nervous systems that take in more data and process it more deeply, just genetically by
Hmm.
default. What you put into that determines the outcome. Highly sensitive people, if we are treated kindly as children and if we are given lots of nurturance and support,
Hmm.
we take that and run with it. Like we make amazing things. If highly sensitive people are abused as children,
Right.
we go spiraling off a cliff. We are less resilient. We amplify what's ever given to us.
Got it.
So there's a lot of nuance in that, but really understanding that your nervous system changes over time and it uses what it's given to it in different ways according to its structure. And then you can unravel damage and you can learn resilience.
Mm.
But understanding how your nervous system is wired is the first step. And the second step is understanding what happened since then. And then you can start making adaptations in your environment to start a virtuous feedback loop rather than a negative one.
Right. Right. That makes total sense. Yeah. So, kind of jumping off of that, can we can we talk a little bit about how this all applies in terms of relationships and how
Oh,
the
it's
environment and relationships get developed? I work a lot with couples, so I love this
oh
kind of
yeah.
stuff. So people can be perfectly compatible emotionally, and still they're fighting because their shared space. And this is like classic New York
Yeah.
City, Philadelphia storyline because their shared space is dysregulating not them as individuals, but
Mhm.
because of them being together and what the space
Yes.
does. What do you see happen when couples or families start adjusting their environments instead of just their communication? And any tips you have for couples in particular who live in these very small
I want a whole
little.
podcast on this topic. It is so important. I recently had a couple tell me that their communication improved with the design process.
Wow.
I am literally doing space therapy, and a lot of that is about a neutral party coming in and making observations about where the boundaries are and where boundaries are getting crossed. Physical boundaries mirror psychological boundaries.
Right.
And I will go in and I will find that almost always someone is just like not allowing any, not defending any boundaries because they think that that makes them a bad person
Mhm.
if they want it their way, or
Right.
someone is taking too much control. And this is
Mm.
never, there's a gender component, but all genders are guilty of this,
Mm.
that someone is the controller and someone is ceding all of their boundary.
Yeah.
And that's never healthy. That just can't work. We're conditioned to think that sacrificing our boundaries for our family is what love means. I'm here to
Mhm.
tell you that is not. As a
No.
therapist, I'm sure you know that that is
Oh,
not,
yeah. Nope.
that does
Mhm.
not work. So
Right.
I will go in and just ask a lot of questions,
Mhm.
like, why is that there? Who made this decision? Whose stuff is this? Where do you do this? Why is this happening? What do you like? What do you not like? What do you get into arguments about?
Right.
And then I'll break it down from there. And a lot of times people work it out themselves, but a lot of
Mhm.
times they need the language to discuss the aesthetics. I have clients telling me, I just don't like that and I don't know why. I'm like,
Yeah.
and I'll put words to it. I mean, I literally had a client, we were testing paint colors and she's like, she calls me, she's like, I just feel like it's a mental hospital. It feels like a kindergarten. And I'm like, I don't know how to say it. And I'm like, you don't need to say anymore. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And this is the adjustment we need to make in that hue.
Mhm.
Let's try this one. And she's like, oh, okay. She calms down. It's
Mm.
because I was an artist. I stared at colors
Mhm.
for decades. I
Sure.
can tell when a tweak in the hue is just triggering
Mhm.
something that you don't want, and that you don't have to make much of a change for the whole emotional affect of the space to change.
Right.
So just even giving people a language and then advocating for every member of the family,
Mhm.
assuming that every member of that family is equally important.
Right.
We're not going to let our neurodivergent child take over everyone's space because that's not good for everyone and it's not
Mhm.
good for the child either.
Right.
We will create a space for that child to get their needs met. And we're
Mhm.
going to create a space for mom to get her needs met and dad to get his needs met and the neurotypical sibling to get their needs met,
Mhm.
because everyone's going to have more bandwidth to take care of the neurodivergent child if they're not sacrificing their needs.
Right. Right. Interesting. So fascinating. I did this one exercise. I remember I've done it a couple of times, but I remember this one particular one where it was a couple who lived in Manhattan and they had moved in together. It was clear that them moving in together caused a lot of conflict
Hmm.
and brought up a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
So one of the exercises I had them do is I had them take a notebook and a pen or a marker and draw out their like layout of their apartment and then identify sort of like where their traffic patterns. Like when they
Hmm.
come home from work, this is where they go first, is second, da 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 da, right?
Hmm.
And then started to identify things like where is the fun? Where does the fun happen, right? Where
Hmm.
are big decisions made?
Hmm.
Where are meals had? Where are conversations with family members? Things like that. It became very apparent. I'm gonna ask you to guess.
Sure.
Guess where. So they all were happening in one place. Guess where that was?
The bathroom.
No, the bed. The bed. So they slept there. They had sex there. They were making big decisions. Like,
No
holy
boundaries.
crap! Right, exactly.
Right.
This
Right.
poor bed was going through it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. That is not, that's not sustainable.
no, no.
And it's kind of a good metaphor too.
It Absolutely. It was very insightful for them to
Hmm.
recognize that, oh, we have a hard time like utilizing space and giving ourselves some breathing area.
Right.
Because one of the things in particular that, a lot of couples will struggle with is when conflict arises and dysregulation has kind of gone off the edge a little bit. Where do I go? Where do I
Mhm.
get to go self regulate? Even if it's
Right.
just
Yeah.
5 minutes of like,
New York
ah,
apartment. You can't be alone.
no, absolutely not. And not everybody lives near Central Park or near a park in general, right? To go
Oh,
walk it
I know
out.
all about that. Yeah, I lived in Brooklyn for 7 years,
Yeah.
and we just kept packing more in. And yeah,
Yeah.
you have to
Absolutely.
designate zones. And
Right.
I have helped a lot of clients navigate those exact issues, really just even carving out a corner, a windowsill, just
Absolutely.
physical boundary with that mirrors the emotional boundary that you need to set, allows
Yeah.
everyone to regulate and then come back and
Right.
address things from a point of calm and a point of connectedness
Yeah.
rather than just
Absolutely.
battling it out in the bed.
That's right. That's right. Mm, I find it interesting that you picked the bathroom though, because I have this association of the bathroom with Holly Hunter's in this movie, Home for the Holidays, and it's like it's one of my favorite holiday movies. But she's always taking phone calls. This was back in the I guess the early '80s or whatever when it was still corded, and she would
Right.
always take the phone and go into the bathroom and be like,
Yeah.
what's going on?" So that's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. It just
So
was the most uncomfortable place that I could think of.
yeah, absolutely, and usually the smallest and
Mhm.
hottest and all of that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So for someone who feels constantly on edge, what's one small way they can experiment with their space that the landlord isn't going to come down on them for? Um, Not to make it perfect, but to make it more regulating. Like, what is one small thing that you think is actionable?
Really getting yourself into a detached state of mind. What I have my clients do is sit down, pull out your cell phone camera, and just take pictures of everything
Hmm.
because this gives you some distance. You'll start framing things. And then if you upload those photos to like a Google album,
Hmm.
page through them and just start looking at them with distance because that will force your brain to notice all the things it's been editing out.
Okay.
And when you start to see all these things that are bothering you when you have distance, you want to start tackling those things. And they can be small. Just start. If you have like 10 minutes and you need to calm down, make your bed, sweep the floor,
Yeah.
just tidy up just a little bit. Just a little bit of decluttering. It does two things. You're physically moving around, which is allowing your brain to process, and
Right.
you're clearing excess visual noise out of your space. Or do the
Absolutely.
dishes.
Right.
Dishes are great for processing.
Absolutely. Laundry, very
Mhm.
soothing. It reminds me of I've read some books about Japanese design and some of the traditions that unfortunately we don't really pick up here very often. But in particular, there's, that one rule, I forget what it's called, but that one rule of like everything has its place. Like
Yes,
the
and
keys
everything
have
in
a
its place.
place. There's like this predictability
Mhm.
that comes along with that. And honestly, I try to live that way. Um, and I find that when I do, it's so much more comforting. It's like, I
Yeah.
know where my keys are. I don't have to like be stressed that when I'm in
Yeah.
a rush to leave or whatever, I don't have to
Oh,
worry
yeah.
about that. Right.
Yeah. And a lot of what I do is help people just build those structures in. Like I never worry about where my keys are because there's a hook right by the front door.
Right.
As soon as I walk in with those keys in my hand, they go on the hook.
Right.
I don't think about it.
Absolutely. So speaking of when you work with clients, Tell me a little bit about what the process is like. I'm sure you have I'm sure there's like a wide variety of different types of clients that you have.
There
Sounds like
is.
some of
Yeah.
them rely on you for some of the therapeutic stuff, some of them for more of the actual like design, planning, construction, that kind of stuff. Yeah, tell me how people engage with you, how you work with folks.
You are right that people need me for a lot of different things, but I do have a process which works both for people where I'm physically in person and virtually.
Okay.
I do work with people all over the world. My furthest flung clients have been Australia and the UK.
Wow. Nice.
I'll do an intake, which will be between 90 minutes and 2 hours. This will either happen via a laptop where they can take me on a visual tour or their phone,
Hmm.
or if they're in my area, I just come over. And it's always the same. I'm just like, okay, give me a tour and tell me your story.
Mm,
And I will ask questions about the objects, and they're neutral questions. They're not shaming. They're not, I mean, I have had a client that has PTSD and had a panic attack halfway through
mhm,
that process. And we just took it in stride. As
mhm,
a massage therapist who understands the nervous system, I took him through a somatic processing
mm,
exercise that I have used and had used on me and,
mhm.
learned from other somatic practitioners. It's just part of the process. It's not like, oh, this client's too difficult or too high maintenance. I'm like, no, no, no. This is what you're here for.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we go through that whole process. And then if I'm physically present, I will take like 100 photos. If the client, if it's virtual, I will ask the client to take photos.
Mhm.
We upload them to a shared album,
Okay.
and then we have an asynchronous conversation where I'll go through all the photos, I'll make observations, I'll ask questions.
Mhm.
The client goes, sees the questions, sees the observations, and they answer. And we do that for a week or two. And by the end of those 2 weeks, I have a good idea of what I think the problems they want to address are, because you can't make assumptions.
Right.
You can't make assumptions about people's goals. I'll say,
Mhm.
okay, this is what I observed. Did I get that right? Here are some goals I think we might want to work for.
Right.
Does this sound right?
Okay.
And then I will create a plan for if they like, okay, those goals work for me, then I'll create a plan for how we get there with a process notes,
Mhm.
timeline, parameters, what I can do, what I will do, what the process looks like, which is different for everyone. It could involve sourcing things, it could involve doing digital layouts. It could just involve me coaching them on WhatsApp or on video or online or, setting up a Pinterest album with ideas, helping them
Mhm.
brainstorm. I am a design supporter,
Okay.
and my client is learning to make decisions, and they're getting more and more confident
Mm.
as the time goes by. So by the end of a month together, we will have been collaborating. They will have a plan, a detailed plan, a clear process of how that's going to happen. And they can take that and run with it, or I can keep working with them on a monthly retainer rate.
Okay. Perfect. That's amazing. It sounds like a lot of entry points. It sounds like people can take it as far or as short as they like.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
it's
very different from a, a classic interior designer
right.
wants to just come in,
Hmm.
tear your house apart, give you a gorgeous digital layout with all this new furniture, all these new finishes, and
Yep.
there's a markup built into everything. And they want you to sign on the dotted line, and then they bring some people in to like install it.
Right.
And then you write them a 6-figure check and they run away. And
Right.
then they get mad if your taste doesn't exactly match their plan. And then they want to talk you into their plan. I mean,
Hmm.
that's the worst ones. Of course, there's some good designers that like, I'm the opposite. I want
Hmm.
to save you money. I don't charge markups. I want to empower you to understand your own body and your own taste and your own relationships so that I'll make some changes, but I'll check in with you as to how those changes are working for you. Like,
Hmm.
you're the one who's right. If
Right.
I didn't get it right, I'm wrong and you're going to tell me and we're going to fix it. And then over time, I've had clients just it'll click and they're like, "Okay, now I get it." And they'll check in with me, but basically I'm coaching them in how to become more confident in their own
Hmm.
taste and their own understanding of things. And then I'll just set them free and they're like, "Oh yes, now all we need is a rug for the living room and I know exactly what I need."
Right.
And it might take them a while to find it, but they feel that
Like you've
they're
empowered them,
empowered
you've
now.
educated them, you've
Yeah,
empowered them, you've helped them gain insight. I mean, it's pretty much a very similar process to the kind of therapy that I'm familiar
exactly.
with
Yes,
giving.
it is
Yeah, it's like
space therapy. Many of my
exactly. It's
patients
like
are space therapists.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so we have a couple of minutes left. I had one other topic I wanted to pick your brain about is something that, I get a lot of people struggling with sleep, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Having difficulty with creating a safe space where it is, like I said, there are so many people who are doing so many things on their bed.
Mhm.
Um,
Right, yeah.
so some of it is is just impractical to separate the two things. But in general, what kind of guidance do you give people about what is a good space for good rest?
Yeah. Um, First rule, screens out of the bedroom.
Yes.
Uh, the light from a screen keeps your brain awake. It's
Yeah.
biological.
Yeah.
We've all had this experience, I'm sure. We're like just scrolling Reddit before bed, and then 3 hours later, we're like about to die. But literally the dopamine and the light hitting your pineal gland is keeping
Hmm.
you awake when you desperately need to sleep.
That's right.
That's number one. I mean, and even highly sensitive people have them even tape over like the little lights on the monitor that are
Hmm.
always on because those little blue lights will keep you awake.
Yep.
So that's basic. We all kind of know that.
Hmm.
Keeping your office out of your bedroom. Oh my God. I mean, and again, I lived in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Yeah.
My bedroom was my painting studio. I
Hmm.
was sleeping in
Sure.
turpentine fumes. I had a I had a filter. Uh
Yeah.
so yeah, keep your reminders and just the less I won't say visual noise, like comforting visual noise. Um, my bedroom's full of plants. Like again, I talked to you about biophilic design.
Yep.
That's a very safety inducing feeling.
Right.
Noise buffering, absolutely. You want to filter as much noise as you possibly can. And be aware and circadian lighting.
Yeah.
You can program lighting to change with the time of day.
Absolutely. And it's amazing how, and I think a lot of listeners won't know this because I just learned this myself, but I used to think even recently I thought, "Oh, those are so expensive. Those lights are
Not.
like so they're dirt cheap now. You can
Mhm.
go into like any major store that sells lighting fixtures and for a very inexpensive amount, you get the light itself, you get an app, and you get a remote control. And
Mhm.
between those three things, you can program it to
Yeah.
do just about anything you want. And I,
Yeah. It's
I think
amazing.
it is much more accessible than it used to be. So yeah,
Yeah, and
really.
particularly if you're using your own plug-in fixtures and if you've got like a fixture that you can't change because, you don't own the building, just don't use it. Plug in your own fixtures, put in those programmable circadian lights,
Right.
set your little scene. I have lights that, they brighten really early at sunrise in a blue hue spectrum. And then in the evening, there's a moment when they turn yellow, and then they dim closer and closer to bedtime. Like, that's mimicking what the sun would be doing.
Right.
And that is good for your brain.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. So, to all you listeners out there, before bed tonight, here's one little micro action that you can take. Just adjust one of these sensory elements that Stephanie's been talking about. And that could be light, that could be sound, that could be texture, or it could be just moving around some of that visual clutter. And just notice how your body responds. I imagine, Stephanie, that experimentation is a big part of this process,
Oh,
right? Like,
totally.
yeah.
Learning to trust your own body. Your emotions are physical. They
Hmm.
are not mental. Your
Right.
mind is part of your body, and you will be able to locate an emotion in your body. That's when you're feeling stressed. I tell people to stop, notice where you're physically feeling that stress in your body,
Mhm.
and then just feel it. Don't think about it.
Right.
That can be challenging. You'll keep creating a narrative, and the narrative keeps creating the feeling, and
Hmm.
we just loop and loop. If you can
Yep.
just sit there and physically feel it while trying to stop the narrative, it only takes about 90 seconds for things to start to shift. And when you get used to checking with your body,
Mhm.
you notice where your body is uncomfortable, and then you take it seriously enough to go change the thing that's causing the discomfort.
Right.
Change your sweater. I was wearing a sweater yesterday that was giving me hives on the back of my neck, and I spent the whole day, "What's wrong?"
Right.
I was like, "Just change your sweater."
Yeah.
Mm,
Sometimes it's
just
just the simple stuff. Yeah.
throw over the couch if it's scratchy.
Mm.
If there's a pile of paper, like, stack the paper, stick it under something. I mean, you're gonna have to go through it at some point, but if you're punishing yourself by leaving something stressful in your line of sight so that you'll get to it,
Mhm.
first of all, you won't get to it. Second of all, it's gonna increase your stress. So decrease your stress and then pull the pile out from where you hit it and tackle it.
Exactly. I love that. I love that. Amazing. Stephanie, this is so great. I already have ideas for a second episode, so I'm
I am
super
signed up for
excited to
it. You're a great
brainstorm.
interviewer. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. So all of the listeners out there who are interested in learning more about your services and about learning more about you and your process, can you give some good places for them to go to, whether that's websites, emails, whatever?
Sure. Yeah. Everything is accessible via my website, which is practicalsanctuary.com.
Awesome.
You can get a copy of my book, which came out last fall. It's called The Eccentric Genius Habitat Intervention. You can get that off my website. You can get it off of Amazon or any online bookseller. I recommend getting it in the paperback. It is also an ebook, but
Hmm.
it's a physical object, and
Yep.
physical objects stick in your brain better
Hmm.
than digital ones.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking one of those future episodes could be like to talk a little bit about podcast backgrounds and for us to maybe like go through different famous podcasts and what's in the background of those podcasts.
Oh, I don't watch them. I just listen to them.
Okay, fair enough.
It
Fair
would be
enough.
fun.
But yeah, a lot of people have books in their bag. So I actually just redid my little at home studio, which is in the farmhouse. Still kind of figuring out where to put stuff. And so hopefully it'll be a little bit more, I'll be a little more proud and my body will be more aware of my surroundings when I see you next. So
Oh, I look forward to it. And if you want
yeah,
any help, I'm always here.
awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us, and for those listening, yeah, definitely check out. We'll put all of the info, including Stephanie's website, in the show notes. If there was something here that kind of perked your interest, or there was a question you might have, feel free to add those to the comments. And I'm sure Stephanie will be keeping an eye out for those. I will be keeping an eye out for those. And yeah, we'll look forward to continuing the conversation offline. So thank you, and thank all of our listeners out there. And yeah, have a great rest of the day. And we'll see you in the next episode. Take
Thank you,
care.
Dominic.
Thank you.